Live from downtown Lansing, you're listening to the Spartan Beat with your hosts, Corey Robinson and Justin Thinn.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us for the first episode of the Spartan Beat. I'm here today with my co-host Corey Robinson. I'm Justin Thinn. We work for 24/7 Sports for the Michigan State site Spartan Tailgate. Big day here as we're getting started on the first episode. Corey, how are you feeling today?
Definitely excited, ready to take this next chapter onto radio so everybody can see what we've got.
Yeah, for sure. For those of you out there that don't know who we are, we're going to run through our bios real quick, and then we'll get into the show after that. So as for myself, I started at Rivals actually last year around this time, after the Mel Tucker coaching search and the recruiting started to pick up. So I guess even backtracking a little before that, freshman year of school at Michigan State, that's when I kind of got started onto the blogging side of things with Fansided, SB Nation, things like that. It was actually Jaron Jackson that told me I had a lot of useless sports knowledge that I should actually put to good use. So started going down that road, and then as time went on, I decided that I was kind of more interested in recruiting than actually like covering the team in depth. So the Mel Tucker era started. There was a lot of recruiting energy, and I happened to wind up over there on the Rivals boards quite often, and I saw the work Corey was doing. After a while, I started to kind of lobby Jim Comparoni, the publisher over there, to bring me on as kind of like an unpaid intern. He ended up going along with that, which I'm forever grateful. And so since then, Corey and I had been working at Rivals until about February, and we started at 24/7 on February 1st, 2021. And Alex Heward and the guys here at Spotlight Media let us bring our show to the airwaves. And here we are. Corey, do you want to let people know a little bit about how you've gotten here, what the journey is?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of the same as yours, where I started with Fansided, writing with Connor Maldoney. He was the first one to kind of trust me with being able to write my own stuff. And then from there, I kind of forced the hand of Rivals with Jim Comparoni to hand over the recruiting analyst job there. And I was with him for a couple of years, and that worked really well. And then now I'm with 24/7 Sports with Spartan Tailgate, covering that. And just that's kind of how we kind of followed mirrored the same paths, but on different time frames.
Yeah, definitely. And the show itself that we're kind of taking on here, the Spartan Beat, that was originally hosted by Rico Beard, who's now over at 97.1 The Ticket with Mike Valeni. A lot of people obviously know who he is. And to kick off the show here for the first episode, we actually have Rico on the phone with us today. Rico, how you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, guys, congratulations, first of all. And for the record, Mike Griffith was actually the first to host the Spartan Beat. I took over for him. He went on to become this big-time SEC beat writer, and he's on TV and stuff. So if things hold well, then this is going to be the jump-off point for your careers and your next job. You guys are going to make a ton of money and do a lot of things. But congratulations.
Appreciate that, Rico.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, so as soon as I knew that we were taking over the Spartan Beat, like there was only one first guest that was gonna be that, and that's Rico, who's a guy that career I followed a lot because he started out a lot of time with Spartan Mag, and he was a guy that really helped me mature in how to handle the game. So to be able to take over his show is a huge honor for me personally.
Well, working on Spartan Mag, you'll find out, taught me how to handle everybody who pretty much is going to hate you and say that you have no idea what you're talking about. So congratulations on that, guys. You're going to get that in big time in radio. Got to tell you one thing. Really weird to hear the beginning of the show and not hear my intro to the Spartan Beat. So I'm thinking to myself, Alex, that's not the intro. Play the right damn intro. But I forgot. Not my show anymore. It's yours.
Yeah. The other thing that might be changing here is the logo pretty soon, so you might have some more complaints with Alex about that. Hate to break that to you, Rico. But
hey, look, all I know is, you guys will never have a better intro than I did. So plain and simple. It's taken two of you to fill my role, but you guys are going to do an excellent job at it, telling, Spartan stuff. Have fun. Here's the advice that I give you. Be yourself. Don't try to do anything that you see anybody else do. You two just have fun being yourself. So, all right, enough advice. Go ahead.
So you're saying I can't get on here after Michigan wins and just chew out Jim Harbaugh like Valeni does?
Right.
No. And, hey, you know what? To this day, probably see if you could top the downloads that I had the day that I went off on Michigan and the fans found out. And these idiots are so stupid that they kept downloading it just to hate listen to it, not realizing you're helping me out, man. Keep downloading my podcast over and over again. So, yeah, now you can rip them. I mean, just, have fun.
Yeah.
But do it your way. Do it your style.
For sure. There's just too much content that Harbaugh over there provides with him wearing cleats on wood floors and things like that. But, we'll keep it organic. We won't force that into the narrative.
Well, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And if you want it to actually be entertaining, just entertain the people, man. That's all.
For sure. Speaking on like actual recent developments and things like that, we were hoping to kind of go over the spring game and get your thoughts on that. Did you watch any of the spring game? Have you heard any of the buzz from there? Do you have any impressions about how that was kind of conducted?
Yeah, actually, funny story about the spring game. Actually, the last second, Mike, my radio partner, said, "Hey, you still going?" I'm like, "Yes, Mike." "Well, can you get me in?" So, got him a ticket. Said, "Screw it. You know what? I'm not going as a media member. I'm just going to go as a fan." Not often do I get a chance to put on Spartan gear and just go hang out. So, it was kind of cool. And the funny thing was, as we were walking in the parking lot, see a guy in a black Spartan baseball jersey and a hat and he turns around and says Crouch on the back. So I'm like, "Hey, Mike, see that? It's Crouch. It's Kavera's Crouch." He's like, "Really? Like, that's him?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we go to pick up our tickets from the will call, and as we're leaving, Crouch is coming in. So I'm like, "Hey, man, seriously, what's the deal with you? Like, what are you waiting for?" He's like, "Well, you see what I'm wearing, right? And I'm wearing a hat. I never wear hats." I'm like, "What does that mean? Are you coming to state or not?" "You're just going to have to wait and see, but it should mean something to you." "Okay, well, we'll see. So 48 hours later, he commits. So I like to think I had something to do with it. Yeah. I really didn't, but it's the story I tell. Yeah. But watching the team, you couldn't take much out of this. I mean, it was a glorified practice. If you've never been to like a camp, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
You kind of pick whatever position group you want to watch. The only thing that I took from it is a couple things, actually. Peyton Thorne looks like he's a starting quarterback. He was the first one out when they did the one drills. Like, he was always the first quarterback to throw the ball. So, to me, that says he's the starting quarterback right now, that Russo has not taken the job from him. And honestly, I don't think he's going to. I think Russo is just really a good backup quarterback that in the event that something ever happens, there won't be a major drop-off. And then I'm looking at, what else? You kind of saw the handwriting on the wall for Theo Day, and then, of course, he jumped into the transfer portal today. What else did actually, Elijah Collins. I thought that Kenneth Walker was going to be the main guy, but Collins goes in first when the ones went out there against the twos. Thought that was interesting. And probably the fact that a lot of guys who aren't on campus yet can probably win some starting jobs.
Oh, for sure.
That's the biggest thing that I took away from the spring game. So,
absolutely.
So to go away from the spring game and maybe just the total picture of the Mel Tucker era. What's your thoughts on Mel and the energy he's brought? Because I know you still follow the recruiting and you get the energy on the streets there, and just how much he's changed the culture so quickly, and what sticks out to you about Mel.
With Mel Tucker, I mean, basically his little mantra, relentless, that's him. He's a little different. He's trying to turn over every rock. He realizes, I got a limited window to fix this thing. And this is a broken program. It's a broken team. And I know some Spartan fans don't want to hear that, but it's true. The end of the D'Antonio era was not kind. And you're seeing it with so many people leaving. It's like, you know, Tucker is going to probably, before the season starts, you may see close to 40 brand new faces between transfers and the incoming recruiting class on this Spartan team. You know, you're looking at, good 40% of he's flipping the roster is what he's doing. He's trying to design it his way. He didn't like the fact that the running game was so putrid that they did not score a rushing touchdown. That bothered him. So what did he do? He went out and got some of the biggest running backs, biggest offensive linemen that he could get, and that's his first step. Build up the offensive line, get some new running backs in there, and let's open up some holes and score. That bothers him. And, also the defense. Seeing a lot of changes on defense with linebackers. I think Crouch, you could probably go ahead and pencil him in as a day one starter. Between Klein and Noah Harvey, linebacking core is still kind of it's still lacking in players. They got the kid Tank from Minnesota coming in. That's going to help them out. But he knows that this team, he needs to get his players and his team ready for the next level. He's not happy just beating Michigan. Mm-hmm. He wants to beat Ohio State. He wants to go to Indianapolis. He wants to make Michigan State back on top. And, they were there, and fans know how it felt. But, that probably was the biggest thing, is when they were there, they didn't know how to maintain it and stay on top. They got on top, but they didn't know what to do to stay there. With Tucker, he's trying to get them there, and he wants to stay there. He wants Michigan State to be a part of the powerhouse programs that you're talking about. So he's doing it. He's changing the roster. He's using the transfer portal like nobody's business.
For sure.
It's the best thing. Look, a lot of people may start getting upset saying, well, you're missing out on recruits. I think transfer portal is almost, I'm not going to say it's going to nullify recruiting. If you miss out on a recruit, no big deal. Either A, wait for the boomerang action, let them go to another school, realize, pick the wrong school, can I come back to Michigan State? Or you just get somebody like the A.J. Duffy, just committed to Florida State.
Yep.
And, I'm sure some Spartan fans are, how come we couldn't get him? And I would simply say this. If it were me, guys, unless he's a special quarterback, I'm not recruiting any more quarterbacks. I'll just get him out the transfer portal. I'm going to let some guy go somewhere else, see how good he is, take him from a little school and bring him to MSU. That would be my strategy, rather than bring in a guy and then he's probably going to end up leaving anyway, unless you start him right away. But for Tucker, the transfer portal is really going to help him get this thing rolling and rolling faster.
For sure.
I think the bar for him, try to get to 6-6 and make a bowl game this year. Yeah. If you can get anything past that, great. It's next year that now we need to see 8-9 wins. And then you keep building upon that until you can finally beat Ohio State. Because let's face it, the road to Indianapolis goes through Columbus. If you can't beat the Buckeyes, you're not doing anything.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up specifically, because that reminds me exactly of what Mel Tucker was willing to come in and say outright. I can't remember which interview or press conference it was from, but he had said at one point, if you can't help us beat Ohio State, we will go ahead and find somebody who can, when he was assessing the state of the roster at the time. And that was kind of refreshing to hear a head coach just come in and outright say that. a lot of times coach speak and these guys, they don't like directly talk about who the standard is in the conference and who they're trying to beat. But Mel Tucker, he knows what the mission is. He came in and addressed that right away.
Well, he knows his fans aren't stupid. Yeah, it really, if you can't, and I've said this before, every person you bring in, whether it's a coach, a player, every play that you run, I would have it up on the whiteboard. As a matter of fact, I would get it engraved in every building. Will this help us beat the Buckeyes? If the answer is no, don't run the play, don't recruit that player, don't bring in that assistant coach. Bottom line, if this guy can't help us beat the Buckeyes, he shouldn't be on the roster. And I think that's why you see so much attrition on this roster all of a sudden. You know, people are like, oh, is there problems at Michigan State? I'm like, no offense to the kids who are leaving. Yet none of them are going to help you win. It's not like Xavier Henderson is leaving, going into the transfer portal. Now you got problems.
Yeah.
You know, if Jaden Reed, you know what, I'm going in the transfer portal, problems. But the guys going in there now, good luck.
Yep.
Wish you well. But you weren't going to help us beat the Buckeyes.
Yeah, and that's a big thing for me, covering recruiting. You get a lot of the fans that they'll be like, oh, what about this guy that's undersized or whatever? Are we going to go after him? And I'm just like, you guys aren't listening to what Mel said. He didn't mince his words at all.
Yeah,
if you cannot beat the Buckeyes, if you can't beat Georgia, if you can't beat Alabama, I'm not recruiting you.
Yeah, Corey, let me help you out real quick. Most fans are idiots, okay? They are. They don't know what they're talking about. If it were up to them, they would bring every person that Michigan State offers. Oh, he should be here. Yeah. Every transfer, he should be here. Guys, they got a scholarship limit. Not everybody's going to fit. Fans will always want the kid that State didn't get.
Yeah.
The ones that State gets, yeah, but why couldn't we get the other guy? It's like that in life. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, fans they're idiots.
Yeah.
They want everything, and you don't get everything. That's just not life.
Yeah, definitely, especially recruiting. I mean, even if you're Bama or Clemson, you're not getting every guy you want to get. So there's everybody has beats.
Here's the thing. Real fan bases get that. Yeah, Bama wants them, but Bama knows, you know what, we'll get somebody else and we'll keep winning. Yeah. For State fans, we need this guy. Heaven forbid he's got a Michigan offer. How come Michigan keeps beating us? Guys, what does going to Michigan really mean? Nothing.
Yep.
They're not beating State consistently.
Yeah.
So, and, I mean, look at it. I mean, they're leaving their record. They can't get away from Harbaugh fast enough.
Yep.
I mean, you got Nico Collins, a kid who probably is going to go second, third round in the draft. He was a no-show. Donovan Peoples-Jones, no-show at Michigan.
Yep.
Never had a 100-yard game, goes to the pros. He has 100-yard games.
Yep.
Like, you had these guys on your roster. You didn't know what to do with them, so I wouldn't worry about guys going to Michigan anyway.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic, but I'm glad you bring that up because there's a huge obsession with Michigan State fans kind of wanting guys just because Michigan wants them and because they're from the state of Michigan. And there is a huge disconnect between what the staff is kind of valuing out of guys and what like the fans are kind of valuing, because there are guys that are going to Michigan that simply don't fit the mold from a size standpoint of Mel Tucker's in state that are committing there, and Michigan State fans are saying, why didn't we push harder for this guy? All because the kid decided to go to Ann Arbor and opt out of Indianapolis. Suddenly he's somebody we should have decided to go after. And there's like a whole other element to that too, where there's kids from Georgia that are 3 stars and kids in Arizona, Florida, California, all these places that are 3 stars that the staff is saying, well, or we could have just gotten a 4-star from our backyard, but I don't think Mel understands the pride he needs to have in the state of Michigan. Well, you can either have pride in the state of Michigan or you can go ahead and make sure you have the best possible players to play for your program, and then the team will win, and that's how you have pride in the state of Michigan as a result.
Yeah, I mean, it's a catch-22 situation. You want to win the battle in state, but, and here's where a lot of high school coaches in Michigan get upset with me. Talent's not that great in Michigan. Yep. Let's just be real.
For sure.
It's not. You know, a 4-star kid in Michigan is a 3-star kid in Florida, Texas, California. You just happen to be the tallest short person in the class.
Correct.
That's what you are. So, yeah, you want to try to get the best talent out of the state, but when you really look at it, what person from the state of Michigan has made an instant impact on any team that they've gone to?
Yep. I think it's pretty clear, anyone that looks at the rankings in like the last 5 or so years, that it is not what the Michigan recruiting talent kind of was when D'Antonio kind of brought the program up through those ranks in the early 2010s. Last 5 years, not the same.
The last person from the state of Michigan that really had close to an instant impact, probably Mike Weber at Ohio State.
Yep.
Other than that, they get there, and it's a steep learning curve. Their first year, they're mostly spending on the bench. Their depth.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and you kind of see that a little bit already for the first recruiting class. I don't know how much you've heard about this, but Cam Allen has apparently come out of nowhere in camp and has risen up the depth chart as an early true freshman because of the fact that in Texas they're running the kind of concepts and offenses that guys in Michigan never even have heard of.
Well, here's the other thing. It's the stupid MHSAA rules that are hurting the Michigan recruits. The players are good, but in Texas, they play fall and they play spring ball. So you know what that means? That means by the time these kids get to college, they play close to 6 or 8 seasons. So they're a lot further along than people in Michigan who could only play 4. You can play fall ball, then you can play spring ball. The best you can do in Michigan is you can play 7-on-7. 7-on-7 is not real football. You don't believe me? Go ask Shane Morris. He was the king. I thought he was going to be the first 6-star recruit. Oh, he lit it up in 7-on-7. And he got to Michigan and realized, oh, they can hit me? Oh, okay. So, yeah, you want to go into talent-rich states. You want to go into SEC country. You want to go into Texas. You want to get into California. You want to get into places like that where, let's face it, Texas and Texas A&M and TCU and Texas Tech and Oklahoma can only get so many kids out the state. That doesn't mean, well, the rest of these kids are bad. No, it just means that the other kids are really good. But you can still get some guy, develop him, and turn him into your own. So I like the fact that he's really hitting up the southeast part of the country, going into Georgia, going into Florida. This is the place, Louisiana with Keon Coleman. These are the places that win. Yep. So, absolutely,
and you
that's
can even
where you want to go.
You can even see around the country. Corey and I talk about this all the time. The proof is in the pudding with how the programs are actually behaving themselves and who they're targeting. Look at Penn State, for example. They lost Tim Banks to Tennessee, who was a Michigan recruiter. Wouldn't you think they would replace him with a Michigan dude if they want to actually keep that pipeline going? No, they got Coach Pondexter from Purdue because he's a DMV kind of guy. Pretty much Michigan State lost Mike Tressel. They know their recruiting ground. They went ahead and replaced him with Travaris Tillman, who's a Georgia guy. You can look all around the country. The position coaches are being taken out of areas that have fertile recruiting grounds, and you don't see assistant coaches from Michigan being used to fill these vacancies. So the proof is in the pudding. Even if people don't want to take our word for it, the schools are positioning themselves to recruit well in other areas than right here.
Right, because it started when Kerry Combs was going through an Ohio State defensive back coach. I think he's now the D coordinator.
Correct.
But he was getting all the top talent to go to Ohio State. Ohio State cherry picks off the top. If you're the best player in whatever state, especially in Michigan, Ohio, you're going to Ohio State. And during that time, that's when they got Mike Weber, they got Damon Webb. They were getting a lot of different people from the state of Michigan. So, of course, it's a copycat league. If Ohio State is spending time here, maybe you want to come and get some of these people. And at the time, D'Antonio was able to develop Michigan talent. So it looked like Michigan was a hotbed. And then it cooled off. And then it wasn't as the players, I don't want to call them bust, but they were not as good as expected.
Yeah.
And you even see that where like Lance Dixon leaving Penn State, now going to West Virginia. I mean, they don't invest a ton of time. That's why people are like, oh, well, Michigan stole Rayshon Benny, and I'm like, once again, Rayshon Benny's not going to help you beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
So if he goes to Michigan, good luck to the young man, but I'm not losing sleep because he's not going to be at Michigan.
Yeah.
Heck, we'll see when he hits the portal, Michigan's going to turn on him.
Yeah, and I heard some things after Rayshon Benny kind of committed to Michigan that was not as big of a loss inside the building as people outside the building felt it was. A lot of it had to do with them trying to get a foothold in the state and kind of making sure from a branding perspective that it looked like they were succeeding. And that was not, from a football-only standpoint, as huge of a loss as it made it, as it looked for the public. But a lot of
no, you know what that was? That was here's the fall of Michigan. Okay, it used to be Michigan was about Ohio State, national program, whatever. Michigan's biggest thing in this recruiting class. Well, we beat Michigan State for recruits. We took the wide receiver out their backyard. We took their top-rated recruit. Honestly, guys, seriously, this is your victory? You're taking victory laps for this?
Yep.
Okay, here's what I learned. Truest thing ever. It's true in the NFL. It's true in college. I remember Pat Narduzzi telling me this when he was the defensive coordinator of Michigan State. Wide receivers are a dime a dozen.
Correct.
He was like, you guys get all bent out of shape for these guys. They're a dime a dozen. If you get the right wide receiver, how many times have you seen a guy who goes like, if wide receivers were so great, wouldn't Rondale Moore have been at Alabama?
Yep.
He was an afterthought. He's at Purdue. Purdue's not known for wide receivers.
Yeah.
They're a dime a dozen. If they get in the right system, they're good. Plain and simple. So, yeah. So the kid from East Lansing High. Once again, good luck to you, but we'll see. I mean, you wasted Nico Collins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Tariq Black.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're going to make this guy an all-pro first-round wide receiver? Okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, a lot of fool's gold over there, but that seems to be the pattern.
And then, so I'm going to add on too, since with the MHSAA, they're not going to allow the spring ball that hurts. So for all my recruits from Michigan that are listening out here, get in track. Like, I don't understand why Michigan athletes are not making that a bigger deal. And I'm not talking about just being on the team and getting in some runs. Go to the track and try to win states in all of those events and take that as seriously as you take football, and that will pay off for you on the football field. I can guarantee you guys that. So that's my advice to any of the recruits out there that are listening to the show.
Track or basketball. Basketball helps out with your feet. I mean, that's why you were able to see, especially like tight ends and offensive linemen, coaches love those guys who play basketball because it means they're quick and nimble on their feet.
Yep.
They're big guys, but they can move and they can slide off and pick up the blocks and all of that stuff. So don't just be a one-sport player.
For sure.
Play a lot.
And there's proof that Michigan State values those kind of kids too, because if you look at the last class, the JUCO commit from Michigan, Brandon Baldwin, he was a huge basketball dude in high school. Ethan Boyd, he played at ELHS, so that's the proof is in the pudding there too. It's you got to be versatile. It obviously helps with the footwork.
I'm sorry. What didn't Cam Allen play basketball in Texas?
Yep, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and then you got Keon Coleman. I've heard rumors that he may have touched a basketball. I mean,
I was just Keon. I'm interested to see. It's kind of how we talk about the talent level in football here in the state of Michigan. I'm wondering what the talent level in basketball is in Louisiana.
Yeah.
That's a big football state.
Yeah.
So not to say that he won't. I don't think he's going to come and put up 50 points with the Spartans in hoops next year. But I just wonder the level of talent that he's playing. So that's my biggest thing is when I see phenomenal numbers, well, who else are you playing that's Division I? Because if you're going up against somebody good, okay, then that means you're good.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't hurt to see one of your commits on Overtime and Slam Magazine all the time. But, yeah, I think people got a little too excited about some of those quadruple doubles for sure.
Yeah, I think Malik Carr is the one that's going to probably impact the basketball team from the football team more just because he's kind of that Matt Tran and junkyard dog. He doesn't need to do anything.
I'd probably go with Coleman over Malik Carr.
You're going with Coleman?
I am. Yeah. Because Malik, I don't know, because Malik's going to have to make a decision. See, Coleman's a wide receiver, so you don't have to bulk up.
Yeah.
But Malik, if he's going to be that special tight end, he's going to have to add some muscle to his body. He's going to have to change his body, and that may not be conducive for basketball. Whereas Coleman, wide receiver, you're not gaining any weight. You want to keep that thin frame. So you'll probably get more out of him than you would Malik Carr. I think Carr, if Carr gets on the team, he'll probably get the Jack Hoiberg playing time, the Stephen Ishbia playing time.
Yeah.
Like, only in blowouts is he playing.
Yeah, definitely.
Or if they're in heavy foul trouble.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that take on it. And, yeah, speaking of Malik Carr, I think he's kind of one of those guys that's just going to be a huge pickup because, I mean, when's the last time you can remember Michigan State getting any production out of the tight end position? Like, to me, it's got to be a minimum of 5 years. So, you know,
you're right, but it's like that was the weird thing with like the previous staff. They used to be able to get, like when Michigan State, D'Antonio first got there. I mean, say what you want about John L. Smith, but he left them some tight ends, and they were able to use from Kellen Davis to Charlie Gant, to Deion Slinson. Like, they had bodies at tight end, and then all of a sudden, the tight end just became a second offensive tackle.
Yeah.
And they didn't really use him.
Yeah.
So, I don't understand that. Malik, see, I think the one that's going to make the impact is going to be Christian Fitzpatrick.
Yep.
Because he's going to help you out in the red zone. He is what Morgan, the kid who left to go to Kentucky.
Yeah.
That was his job. That was probably one of the only two shockers that Tucker and his staff experienced in the transfer portal. I don't think they saw that one coming.
Yeah.
The other ones they kind of saw.
Correct.
But him and Julian Barnett were probably two that was like, what? Who's outside my office waiting for me? Really? But, yeah, now you can use Christian Fitzpatrick in the red zone. He's a legit 6'4" receiver. Yeah. He can get up. He can jump. Basically, if you just want to play keep away with a small defensive back, that's going to be his forte early. Now, I think as the years progress, he's going to get more and more in. Sure. Basically, Speedy and Jaden are going to be your main two receivers. But trust me, when they get into that red zone, that's when your Allens and your Fitzpatricks will help out.
For sure.
Find the mismatch and then exploit that mismatch.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty clear too that the people that watch that Fitzpatrick's route running is ahead of where Trayvon Morgan's was at this point. And Morgan was kind of somebody that wasn't able to see the field because he couldn't get open. He was simply relying on his height. Fitzpatrick's a guy that he can actually get open and use his height as like a benefactor, as opposed to that being like his only like trick in the bag. So I agree with what you're saying. I think that was a pretty big add in the red zone, at least. And then in the future, he'll probably become even more polished and be all over.
Right. So now in the future, I mean, you could see, you got him and Keon Coleman, 2 6'4" guys at the receiver spot. Now, you're going up against a 5'8" corner. Good luck with that.
Yeah. All right, Rico, we'll let you go. Thanks for being so generous with your time here. Hopefully we can carry forward the legacy in a way that you would approve. And
all right, well, every now and then I'll check in on you guys to see what you're doing. I'm kind of busy most of the time at 2 o'clock. But
really? For what?
Yeah. I'll try and catch the podcast a little bit later to listen to you.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks again, Rico.
All right, good luck, guys.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll go ahead and go on our first break here, and then we'll be right back after that.
Thinking of a new air conditioning unit for your home? Hi, Peggy Doty with Doty Mechanical. A new Carrier high-efficiency AC unit will lower your energy usage and increase your home comfort. Current Carrier Cool Cash offers and available utility rebates mean your savings have never been better.
Call Doty Mechanical today at 327-7777 or visit us at dotymechanical.com for your free estimate. For heating and cooling, the names to know, Doty Mechanical and Carrier, turn to the experts.
Amazon is expanding its service that lets delivery people drop off groceries in your garage. The service is now available for all Prime members where grocery delivery is available or more than 5,000 cities across the country. The offering is part of Amazon Key, the company's array of services that enable delivery drivers to leave packages in garages, homes, cars, and businesses. Consumers have to purchase additional hardware in order to get packages or groceries dropped off inside their residence or garage. In-home delivery requires a smart lock and a camera, while in-garage delivery requires a smart garage door opener. The world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance, is introducing a marketplace where users can create, buy, and sell digital collector's items known as NFTs. Non-fungible tokens are designed to represent ownership of rare virtual items that could be anything from works of art to sports trading cards. Bloomberg says a Beyond Meat chicken product is coming soon. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
I'm not your friend or anything, damn.
Billie Eilish is teasing new music. On Monday, Eilish shared a video of herself singing part of an unreleased song. The post was captioned "Happier Than Ever," which some fans believe is the track's title. Less than a week ago, Eilish told fans on Instagram that things are coming. BTS is releasing more music in English. The Korean pop group announced their second English single on Monday. The song Butter is set to come out on May 21st. This is a follow-up to their first entirely English song, Dynamite, which broke numerous records. And Spotify users in the U.S. will soon have to pay more for their family plan. The music streaming service is raising its family plan price by $1 to $15.99 a month starting April 30th. However, the company says those who are already premium family subscribers won't see the price change until June. Variety reports a dip in new paid subscriptions is likely behind the price hike. Single Spotify premium subscriptions reportedly aren't changing. The ratings for Sunday's Oscars are crashing to an all-time low. The 93rd Academy Awards telecast drew the smallest audience ever, with fewer than 10 million viewers. That's according to early numbers from Nielsen. Industry analysts say award shows, including the Emmys and Golden Globes, have struggled to pull in viewers during the pandemic. That's entertainment. Natalie Migliori, NBC News Radio.
I'm Tony Cuthbert with your Spotlight Sports Update. Despite committing 5 errors, the Tigers beat the White Sox 5-2 in Chicago last night. Nico Goodrum had a 2-run homer. Miguel Cabrera and Jonathan Scope each had solo shots as Detroit broke a 5-game losing streak. Tigers manager A.J. Hinch says they needed the win.
You know, you looked up there and we were hanging in there in the game, so obviously our team needed a win in any way. This, wasn't pretty, but it doesn't have to be if you stay in the fight.
Tonight, Casey Mize takes the mound for the Tigers while the White Sox counter with Carlos Rodon. The Red Wings earned a point but lost to the Blue Jackets 1-0 in a shootout last night in Columbus. Netminder Thomas Greiss made 33 saves before allowing 2 goals in the shootout. 2018 first-round pick Joe Valino had 2 shots in his NHL debut for Detroit. The Wings visit the Carolina Hurricanes tomorrow night.
All right, we're back here for the first episode of the Spartan Beat. Rico joined us in the first segment. Appreciate him. Now we're going to go ahead and kind of just jump into what we thought about the spring game, some observations, things like that. I know we touched on a little bit with Rico. I guess first, kind of an interesting story that I guess I should share is when that whole Crouch observation was made that he was at the game, it actually was brought to our attention in a very interesting manner. So Corey and I were just standing by the gate outside, kind of just seeing which recruits were wandering in and things like that, talking to recruits, their parents, had a very productive conversation with Alex Van Sumeren and his dad. Then suddenly, two gentlemen walk up to me and they say, "Hey, AJ Duffy, can we get a picture?" And obviously my mask was on, and they I guess must have thought that I looked like AJ Duffy. I do not agree. It doesn't really matter though. But so then we started chatting, and they knew who Corey and I were. So they just started talking in general, and then they brought up the fact that they ran into former Tennessee linebacker Quavaris Crouch in the stadium, and we were kind of surprised because we knew Crouch visited here at the end of March, and we were thinking that he's not somebody that would want to also come back here a second time. But apparently, not only was he at the stadium, but like Rico already mentioned, he had a custom MSU baseball jersey with his last name on the back. And these two gentlemen, we didn't get their name, but they got a picture with Crouch. I believe one of their two guys, their son, got a picture with Crouch. And they told him, they're like, "Don't worry, we won't put this anywhere where Tennessee can see it." And he basically said he wasn't too worried about that. He was going to make it public soon anyway. I believe also told them he was going to be enrolling at MSU like May 5th or something like that. But so that was how we found out that Quavaris Crouch was at Spartan Stadium, with me getting mistaken for AJ Duffy, and that conversation kind of starting that way. And but yeah, I guess rolling into kind of some of the observations, Corey, what did you kind of think of the scrimmage as a whole?
Well, I'm kind of a football junkie, so I actually like the practice format. Like, that was interesting to me. And just to see the pace that they practice at, like that was so much faster than I've ever seen a Michigan State practice in the past. And I asked around with a few guys, and they're like, "Oh, that was actually kind of slowed down so we could make it a little bit better for the Big Ten Network and the fans to see stuff." So they actually practice faster than that. So that's something that definitely stood out, and I think that's going to pay benefits for them when they get into games and they get in that 2-minute huddle or that 2-minute offense where they got to score quick. They're already going to be used to moving fast, so I think that's a big benefit for them. And then a couple of the players that stuck out to me was Kenneth Walker, the running back, the transfer from Wake Forest. I think he's going to be a game changer. I do agree with Rico that Eli Collins will see a lot of snaps and that he has gotten a lot better now that he's healthier again after COVID. But I think Kenneth Walker is going to probably be that next great back in Michigan State thing. A defensive guy that kind of caught my attention, who maybe he's not going to see a ton of snaps this year, was Simeon Barrow, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. I thought I had heard that he had a really strong camp, and then to see him in the spring game back that up, I think that was something that really stuck out to me and gives a lot of hope for the future. And maybe even this year I can see him being the pass rushing defensive tackle because he's got so much quickness and burst off the line.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of touching on what you were mentioning with Walker, and back what Rico was saying a little bit, where he said that Collins was one of the first guys out and Walker hadn't taken the job. And I believe he was also mentioning that with Russo and Thorne. But we kind of have found out that all these guys that are transferring in, they're not just being handed the first team reps. So most of these guys, they don't know the playbook, and so they're kind of behind the 8-ball a little bit. And beyond that, Mel Tucker and these guys want to make sure that competition is emphasized. Just because they went ahead and got somebody outside and that person is now battling with a former commit that they didn't sign, somebody on the roster right now, that doesn't mean that their new guy that they hand chose from the portal is going to come in above these guys. So when you're seeing guys like Walker and Russo not being the first guy on the rep chart in these kind of settings, that's just partially because they came in below them on the depth chart and are going to earn their way above. And that might take a while as they get the playbook under their feet and things like that. So that's kind of a caveat I wanted to add to Rico's observation there, is that what you saw on the rep chart now in terms of the guys that have entered not being as high as you would have thought, that's purely because that's how they want to emphasize competition that way. But just go ahead.
And then I'll add to that too, because I think that would have really hurt the culture if Mel Tucker brings in this group of transfers and just hands them the keys. So these guys might actually win the job in fall camp and start. But if he would have just said, hey, Kenneth Walker, you're getting all the first string reps. Russo, you're getting the first string reps. Horst, you're getting the first string reps. I think that if I was a player that was already on the team, that would leave a bad taste in my mouth of like, wow, if this guy brings in his guys and he immediately has them jump us. So I think not only are you teaching the transfers that you have to earn everything you get, you're teaching the players that are on the roster, hey, just because you weren't our guys, if you're the best player on the field, we're going to allow you the chance to earn that.
Definitely. And then kind of getting more into some of the other observations we had in just regards to away from the game, which I guess I should also add some observations of mine. I really thought that they were able to showcase the urgency that they practice with. There's like no walking, no waste of time. And for sure the recruits noticed that. That was absolutely something that Kevin Thomas's mom noticed, who Miss Annette Thomas we were able to talk to for quite a while after the spring game ended. And then we got quotes from her for a story afterwards. That was something that she pointed out immediately. Other parents too, even the recruits themselves, I believe Jaden Mangum said something like that as well. So that the way they practice, where everything is done with a purpose and done without wasting time, those are kind of some things that it was good to see due to the fact that it was a practice session in addition to the live game. Guys wouldn't have been able to see that if they just had a full scrimmage like people traditionally do. So that was a great selling point too. And just seeing like how all the drills are done and how hands-on the coaching is. I know Coach Cap, like usual, had some high praise from recruits with just how involved he was with each of the drills and how much he was coaching people up. So it was really beneficial to have that first half be a practice like that. But moving on to some other observations from the game, the whole scene as a whole it was so surprising to see how many recruits were able to make it to East Lansing for this game. Even just out-of-state guys too, like Thomas and Duffy, but also the in-state guys as well. This was all done without the coaching staff being able to invite these guys. So this was done with just self-generated interest from the kids. And if that's what's happening when coaches can't see the kids, I can't imagine what it would be like in June and July and all these times when the kids can visit at the behest of the coaching staff and things like that. So that was a great positive kind of takeaway I had from everything. And just like how fun of a time everyone had. Tyrell Henry, who's a current commit, and Kevin Thomas were like attached at the hip throughout the game. Dylan Tatum brought about 10 of his friends from West Bloomfield. They were having a good time. A lot of 2023 guys and stuff like that that are here in the cards in the future. Just everyone having a great time, their parents being here, just seeing the scene. I think it was as well constructed of a weekend as anyone could have hoped for without the fact that coaches couldn't organize it. And it was just a very positive momentum builder for MSU recruiting, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And like you said, I mean, these kids had to wake up at before 7 a.m. to get these tickets. So to show that, because I mean, I know when I was 16, 17 years old, I wasn't trying to wake up any earlier than I had to. So for them to wake up, go get those tickets, pay for the gas just to see a practice, I think that's a big sign and a good sign for June. And a lot of the guys that were at the spring game mentioned how much they liked it and being around, but they can't wait to get here till June. So all of these guys that were here in April, outside of, I guess, AJ Duffy, will be back multiple times in June. They were talking about, I'm taking a visit, I might camp with them, because there's going to be some 22s like Alex Van Sumeren. He didn't rule out actually camping at Michigan State, and that's just not something a guy of his talent level needs to do. But he was telling me he looked at it as an opportunity to learn some things and get coached by Ron Burton, who could potentially be his head coach or his position coach. So stuff like that just sticks out. And overall, just seeing the energy back in Spartan Stadium, despite the fact that it was limited attendance and it was kind of cold out, it was just nice to be back in there and just catch the environment again.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess kind of even beyond the observations, just looking at like who was there, where MSU stands with them. I guess first we'll even start with the addition of Quavaris Crouch, because even though we've known that was going to happen for a couple months now, there was just a lot of uncertainty about how and when. Actually, his high school coach even told me like about 8 days ago that they were never even going to publicly announce. And then once Crouch got that custom-made jersey for him, he decided to wear that, because what's more incognito than wearing your last name on the back of a jersey? I guess he decided at that point that there's no reason to kind of hold back his MSU interest, and just made that official. But like that just kind of gives like a little snippet into just like how this recruitment had a lot of uncertainty throughout. Even though everybody that had followed this closely knew that it was basically a done deal, that had been known since about February. But even though it wasn't as much of a surprise, it's still a huge deal. And I know I called this monumental in my tweet where I was previewing the commitment, and some people thought that was out of place for some reason. Not sure what the deal there was, but that was kind of something where you have to look at it from the hole he's filling, in addition to what kind of player he is himself. So not only is he somebody that had 56 tackles in the SEC, starting as a true sophomore for Tennessee, with 11 tackles coming against fifth-ranked Texas A&M. Not only did he do all of those things with the skill set he possesses, he also fills a hole that otherwise might have been filled with somebody like Ma'a Nauteote, who's a true freshman, maybe somebody like Ben Van Sumeren, kind of playing a little out of position. Because when you really boil down the 4-2-5, technically, according to the textbook, there's supposed to be one linebacker that's rangy, who can kind of cover more than the other, and then kind of a middle of the box kind of centric linebacker. That one was going to be Harvey for sure. He's kind of limited with agility and space. So he would have been that like interior centric linebacker. And guys like Van Sumeren and even Itavian Brown, they're not people that have been known to be good in coverage. So that position, that exact mold of linebacker that Crouch is now going to fit in, that is not kind of a position that MSU had any ideal options at. So you got to look at who would have been playing in that role, in addition to the talent that Crouch himself possesses. And for those two reasons combined, I think this is not even arguable that it's a monumental addition for MSU.
Yeah, and I talked about that in my commitment breakdown on Crouch too, is for the 4-2-5, you got to have someone with speed, and Crouch, a former 5-star running back, has great speed at the position. And had they went into the season with Harvey and either Van Sumeren or Chase Klein, that's a slow linebacker core for a 2-linebacker set. And that probably would have really been a disaster, because I thought Michigan State was slow on the edge last year with Antoine Simmons out there.
Yeah.
So to have gotten slower, that would have probably been doom. So you add him, and I think now you can allow Ma'a Nauteote kind of to learn the ropes, because he's going to be that Crouch position, the big fast backer. I actually think Itavian Brown, his big worth and something that Michigan State absolutely needs is a stand-up pass rusher. So I think you got to give Mel Tucker and his staff a ton of credit, because there was a lot of holes. There still is a lot of holes, but he plugged a lot of those holes and is going to have immediate payoff this fall.
Definitely. Plus, there was something else that I saw somebody mention on the Tennessee board. I think somebody tweeted it out. Tennessee fans were kind of joking that Crouch was able to become the player that he was without even, according to this joke, I don't know how serious it is, but he was able to become at this level of a linebacker without having a real position coach that's very skilled. And people are joking that it's a bag man that was the linebackers coach for them, and not really someone that was like a technical linebackers coach. So this is what he was able to do in his limited time from being a running back, as a recruit, to becoming a linebacker early on. Lots of potential still left for him. But thanks for listening to the first episode of the Spartan Beat. We'll dive into more transfers and recruits later. As the show goes on, we'll have some big guests for you. Corey, any closing thoughts?
No, I'm just excited to get this going, and hopefully you guys enjoy the product we put out there. I think we're gonna add something that's not in the area to the thing, and we're gonna have a lot of guests that you just won't hear elsewhere.
All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next week at Thursday from 2 to 3 p.m. every week.